Welcome to Day 1, Chapter 22, Lesson 3, Adding Integers. Now, what we have to recognize is this, that positive and negative numbers can be added together. Just ask any football player who cares about their statistics. So what we have here, we'll start off with negative 2 plus 1. Now, normally you don't write the positive signs here. You don't have to write the positive signs, but the book will, just to make things crystal clear so you're not confused. So we will let the red dots be negative and the yellow dots be positive. So here I have 2 red dots, which is negative 2, and 1 yellow dot, which is negative 1. So when I add them together, what we look for here is we take away the same. So here 1 and negative 1 gives me 0. So as it says here, step 2, make as many opposite pairs, red and yellow, and then we take them away. So here's 1 red and yellow pair. What are we left with? We're left with 1 red dot, and if we remember way back when, the red dot is negative 1. So the negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Now, we can look at it another way. If we have a a number line, okay, and here's 0, and then this would be negative 1, this would be negative 2. So here's where I start. Why do I start there? Because that number tells me to start there. That's where I start. Now, if it's positive, I go to the right. So how many times do I go to the right? I go to the right once, because it's a positive 1. And that's where I end up. So negative 1 is my answer. So let's look at another one, another problem. Here I have negative 3 plus a negative 2. So I've got negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. So negative 3 plus a negative 2 is in fact negative 5. Why? Because there's 5 red dots, which represents negative 5. Here I have 4 plus negative 3. So I've started with 4 yellow dots and 3 red, because yellow is positive and the red is negative. So again, I take opposites away. So I take 3 pairs away, and I'm left with 1. So I've got 4 plus a negative 3 is 1. So let's take a look at a number line to see how we did. So we're going to go from, say here, they'll call this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll call this negative 6, negative 4, negative 2. And we'll call this 1, 2. We'll call this 2. Now, this one will be red. Okay, so I start at negative 3. Okay, and then I'm adding a negative 2. So that means I walk backwards once, twice. So that's where I end up with negative 5. Okay. Now, here I'm starting at positive 4. So this will be green. So I'm starting at positive 4. And then adding a negative 3 tells me I need to walk backwards 1, 2. Oops. I should have another dash in there. So I'm walking backwards 1, 2, 3. So that's where I stopped, at 1. So that's my answer for that. So those are just another way to show you how to do that. So go ahead, give the video a pause, and I want you to try 7 plus negative 8 and negative 3 plus 14. So here are my 2 problems. Now I used the number line because I like the number line better. It's easier to visualize, and it's not as complicated as the counters. But tomorrow, if you want to use the counters, by all means use the counters. So I started at 7. Okay, and then I'm adding a negative 8. So that tells me I need to step backwards 8 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's where I ended up, negative 1, So 7 plus a negative 8 equals -1. Here, remember, I start at -3, so I'm starting at -3, and then I'm going plus, so I'm going to the right 14 times, positive 14. So if I count these 14, I get to 10. It's one more is 11. So -3 plus 14 is 11. You notice I had to add in my 11 on the number line. Okay. Now, you try, and you want together, so we've got -3, so I've got 3 red dots plus 1 yellow one. So if I get rid of these two, what am I left with? What am I left with? You're right, -2. I'm left with -2. Okay, so go ahead and give the video a pause. I want you to try these two. You notice I gave you some dots, and we'll do the dots and the number line for you so you can see both of them. So go ahead, pause video, give these two a try, and let's see what you get. So first thing I did is I gave myself 2 yellow circles and 3 red, because remember, yellow is positive, red is negative. So then I crossed off opposites. So this, because 1 plus -1 is 0. So 0, here's another 0. So I'm left with just 1 red, which gives me -1. Okay. Now if I do it the number line way, I see that I start at 2, and then I count backwards 3, which leaves me at -1. Moving on to the next problem, 7 plus a -3. So I cross out the opposites, cross out an opposite, cross out an opposite. So I'm left with 4 yellow, which yellow is positive. So I'm left with 4. Now if I do it the number line way, start at 7, I count backwards 1, 2, 3, which leaves me at 4. So I get the same answer either way I do it. So tomorrow, here's your bell work. Good luck and enjoy.